going to talk about this morning is agricultural, economic, political. It has political ramifications. It has economic ramifications. It has social ramifications. It has financial ramifications. It has diplomatic ramifications, but it also has health ramifications. So whilst it might sound political, whilst it might sound, but you might hear some diplomacy coming into it. It also has health ramifications. That's why we're talking about it on Health Thursday. You're welcome. My name is Kofi Bartels. In a matter of seconds, I'll be introducing our guest who will do justice to the issue at hand. Please stay with us. Okay, I can see our guest is set. Fantastic. It's someone you would like to listen to. He's no stranger to us right here on 99.3 Nigeria. In fact, the first time I met him was on Nigeria Info Port Harcourt, so I knew him because of Nigeria Info. He is an architect, he's an environmental activist, he's an author, and he's a poet. In fact, not many people know that he writes. He writes poems, and he has books of poetry that you would love to read. I mean, well read around the world. He's the executive director of Health of Mother Earth Foundation, a leading environmental organization in Nigeria and around the world. He was named the laureate of the Right Livelihood Award, one of the biggest awards you can talk about when it comes to activism. He also received an honorary doctorate degree from the University of York, England in 2019. I'm talking about no lesser person than Nnimmo Bassey, the environmental activist. Sir, good morning to you. Good to see you.
Good morning.
All right, fantastic. I didn't add the other one that you don't like us adding, so I'll leave it out for now. Interesting. And this morning we're talking about introduction of GMO crops in Nigeria. It's been a hot topic all over the country, on the news, even right here on Nigeria Info. GMO crops, and a lot of Nigerians are wondering what exactly are GMO crops. Should I be happy about it? Should I support it? Should I be against it? Some do not know. Some already have the opinions. But the fact is that GMO crops are in Nigeria as we speak. For those of you listening, are we playing with fire? We'll delve into the controversy surrounding the genetically modified crops, the debate, the impact of the crops on our health, our environment, and our food system in Nigeria. We're asking those of you who are listening this morning, do you think the introduction of GMO crops is good or is bad for Nigeria? Are we playing with fire? Are you aware of the potential health risks associated with consuming GMO foods? Do you think the benefits of GMO food or crops outweigh the risks to our environmental biodiversity? We're asking these and many other questions. But before I bring in our guests, the introduction of genetically modified crops in Nigeria sparked an intense debate and controversy. The federal government's approval of 4 GM maize varieties known as Teller maize has made or raised concerns among environmentalists, health experts, and farmers. The Teller maize varieties are designed to be pest resistant, all right, and drought tolerant. So critics are arguing that the long-term effects on human health and the environment are unknown. Nnimmo Bassey, I want to ask you this morning your thoughts on this. First of all, for those who may wonder, who do not know, what are GMO crops, sir?
Well, thank you for the question. What are GMOs? GMOs, as the acronym stands for genetically modified organisms. Another way to describe them is to say genetically engineered organisms. So these are transgenics. And what is important to note is that it's a scientific way of breeding that goes across species boundaries. In other words, you take an element from the DNA of an animal and put it in a plant. You could even take from a DNA of a human being and put in a plant. So reproduction involves the interaction of within species. For example, a male goat would mate a female goat and they produce a kid. A man goes to a woman, they produce a child. Now, you have a situation where this kind of boundaries are not respected. So the products of GMOs, essentially speaking, are artificial. They're not normal. They don't exist in nature. And this brings up a lot of questions. And when you go to the issue of the genetically engineered crops released for cultivation or for consumption in Nigeria, The one that has been most popular of recent is the telomeres. I don't know if you look at the way it was branded and presented, they call it hybrid telomeres. But when you go into the literature, it's actually genetically modified or genetically engineered hybrid telomeres. But Nigerians are not being told on the packet that these are GMOs. And this raises a lot of issues because by going by the Nigerian Biosafety Law and going by international practices and laws across the world, GMOs must be labeled. And if you cannot tell the farmer or the consumer that what you are planting or what you are giving them to consume is a GMO, that already is breaking the law. And that is unacceptable. That goes against the grain, not metaphorically, the grain actually, of people deciding
no pun
what
intended.
they want to consume.
Interesting.
No.
So you were saying global best practice for GM foods, GM crops, even GM, meat is that you must indicate either if the crop is a food, meat on the pack. Whoever's buying it, this is genetically modified.
Yes, precisely. They have to be labeled. If it's a fruit, maybe it's not in a package, you have to put a stamp on it showing that this fruit you are buying is genetically modified. People are not ambushed to eat what they don't understand. The labeling is simply a way of warning the consumer. It's a saying, look, consumers beware. It is a warning sign, which shows that there's something to be worried about. And that is why in the application process for GMOs, there's always a risk assessment. And when somebody sends an application, the regulatory agency would publicize, put the applications out on notice, and then they would also carry a risk assessment. And many of us who are always pointing out that we should be careful about this kind of foods have been asking for a publication of those assessments so that they can have independent or reviewers or peer review to be conducted on those documents or those documents, so to assure us that sufficient assessment was made. It's not enough for those promoting or those regulating to just tell us GMOs are safe. Anybody can say whatever is safe. Indeed, when people hear about anything scientific, the first reaction is that if it's scientific, then it is good. If it's scientific, then it's modern. If it's scientific, it's something we should accept. They're presenting GMOs as silver bullets that will cure every problem about food in the world. This is dangerous and it's over presumption, and we have to call ourselves to order about making such claims and parroting it all over the place.
All right. Quite interesting, Nnimmo Bassey. For those who are listening, please call 0201-277-0993, 0201-277-0993. Our female line, 0201-465-7190, 0201-465-7190. That's a number to call. Do you understand, Nnimmo Bassey, the thinking behind the Tinubu administration's decision to push telomeres, or allow the pushing of telomeres into the market, despite the fact that in 2022-2023 it's reported that Nigeria produced an estimated 12.7 million metric tons of corn, with an average of yield of 2.2 tons per hectare. We're hearing that the government wants to boost food security, increase food security. So despite this 12 million metric tons, you understand why the government still wants to boost food security by bringing or approving this drought-resistant, pest-resistant variety of maize?
Well, what the promoters of this GMO variety are also saying is that whereas the average production of conventional maize in Nigeria is less than 3 tons, that the GMO variety will produce 10 tons. And so that would greatly multiply what is available in the market. But what they've not told Nigeria is that, first of all, that's their claim. Then secondly, actually, if you look at the literature, what I've seen is that telomeres has only a moderate advantage when it comes to drought resistance than conventional varieties. Moderate. And when those who are promoting something says the outcome is moderate, it actually means that it's little or nothing. Little or nothing. And in terms of food security, it as a term actually means, look, your problem is to eat food, open up your mouth, eat whatever food you are given. You don't want it to be hungry. But this should be understood in the sense that what is primarily necessary in Nigeria is food sovereignty. And when you have food sovereignty, you can have sustainable food security. Because food security that depends on a risky technology may produce food today, but tomorrow it would not meet that need if there's a problem. Now, the problem with these telomeres and with all GMOs is that when you cultivate the seed today and it gives you a bumper harvest, if you keep those seeds you harvested and then plant them the next planting season, you're going to get a very poor harvest. That doesn't happen with indigenous varieties. It doesn't happen with conventional corn varieties. What that means is that farmers who go this way, planting GMO telomeres, are going to have it rough, except they go back to the shop to buy seeds at every planting season. It's a sure way to impoverish our small-scale farmers because they won't just simply have the resource to go back. We've seen this happen. What is being said here is eat today, forget tomorrow. We can't say that to our people. We can't say that to our farmers. That cannot solve food security problems. And moreover, in Nigeria, the food security problem is actually largely due to the insecurity in the farms, in the northeastern part of Nigeria, in the middle belt, and even in the southern part, where forest and farmlands are having very insecure situations. So if farmers are not safe on their farms, whether GMO or conventional will make no difference.
Nnimmo Bassey, what does this say about the fact that the study done on these varieties of telomeres? I read an article that said Nigeria Institute for Agric Research carried out a national performance trials of this telomeres variety across the 4 varieties across 10 states with varied agrological or agroecological conditions. And what I read in the article was that the trial showed an average yield of 3 tons per hectare, just above the 2.2 tons Nigeria recorded in 2022-2023, far below the 10 tons per hectare that telomeres promises. What do you think that says?
Well, again, those kind of outcomes don't address the basic issues about that GMOs present to us or to Nigeria and to farmers. As I said earlier, it means eat today, forget tomorrow. Even if you have 20 tons harvest, when you go to plant the next season, you have to go back to buy telomeres from the shop. So it has both social, economic, and ecological consequences. And this is why we have to be careful. And, carrying out the telomeres is not originated from Nigeria. It's not patented to anybody in Nigeria. It has its roots back in the same suspects who are promoting GMOs around the world. It has the roots in Bayer, in Monsanto. And so what we've done here is just like an assembly plant that puts different parts of a car together and says we're manufacturing the car in Nigeria. It's not manufactured in Nigeria, it's just assembled in Nigeria. So telomere is a GMO assembled in the varieties being given here, assembled here. And, we need to be careful how we just jump onto the bandwagon. In Nigerian food system, 70%, if not more, comes from small-scale farmers. In fact, globally, 70% of the food people eat in the world is from small-scale farmers, not from industrial farming. Industrial farming produces crops for industry and, of course, also in the food chain. People are hungry in the world today because a lot of food is wasted. Up to 40% of food being produced goes to waste. So we have close to 1 billion people going to bed hungry because one of the reasons is that food that is produced is not that they don't have access to it, they can't afford it. And in Nigeria, a lot of food gets wasted on the farms because maybe they are not, because of insecurity, because of poor infrastructure, you can't even get them to the market. And those who want to consume cannot get to the farm. So we have basic things we need to address before we jump onto the GMO or before we even think of it. We don't need GMOs in Africa at all. I'll give an example about how this failed with small-scale farmers. In South Africa, there was a time they were promoting GMO cotton. And they made a lot of road shows, showing how small-scale farmers are doing very well in the marketing flats of South Africa. But, once the subsidies and the financial support for artificial inputs, chemicals, and fertilizers were withdrawn, those farmers all went broke and were struggling to go back to their normal farming practices. This is all because you have to line up to buy the seeds, you have to buy the inputs. And I should also say that GMOs are basically engineered to perform two things, apart from the fact that we can genetically engineer them for color, for other things. We may even want to have, say, bananas instead of the ones that are bent, which doesn't really make sense. But GMOs are engineered, some as like the telomeres, to withstand pests, to kill the pests that would normally attack it. Or secondly, to be herbicide tolerant. And when you plant a GMO that is herbicide tolerant, it means you can douse the whole farm, cover the whole farm with that herbicide, which is mostly produced also by those who engineer the seed. So it's about market grabbing. And then you have these chemicals spread across the farm. And it kills every other plant except the one that has been genetically engineered. One may say, well, it takes away the labor of having to weed, but it kills everything.
So you're talking about herbicides like Roundup, which also still is produced
precisely, which is a carcinogen, which has glyphosate that causes cancer. And so when that crop absorbs the chemical, withstands it, and we eat it, we don't have the capacity to withstand those chemicals, because you're eating part of the chemical that is embedded in those crops.
Quite interesting. I just did a check before we came on the program. Roundup is on sale in the country. I think with 62K. You can buy.
It is. It's all over our market.
I don't know if Nigerians are aware of the danger, or some of the people have gone to court, taking the companies to court because of the cancer they got from Roundup. But Nnimmo Bassey, please stay with us. We'll come back to you. I just want to put this out there before. Okay, there's a call coming through. Let's see who this is. Interesting. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kofi.
Welcome. Your name and location and then your country.
I'm John from Ogun State.
John, we hear from you.
Welcome. My greeting to your guests today.
Thank you.
Your guest made mention of one thing that strikes my mind, which is, he said from the beginning that there must be label, that is the product of GMO coming to the market as food for Nigerians. I'm concerned about the level of literacy in Nigeria, especially among the grassroots, predominantly the farmers, who are mostly subsistence farmers. They're the one bringing this thing that will bring it into the market. And with all the health implications and consequences of this, why is our government look into that area? Rather than settling the security situation in Nigeria, allow the farmers to do their farm. This thing is going to cause have a dire consequence in this country, basically because of level of interest. As it is now, if it is labeled, nobody who is understanding the consequence of it will go and buy it.
Okay, so John, what you're saying is that the farmers will not have the capacity to even start labeling it or even know what it's about. They just go buy it and use it because of illiteracy.
They only go for it because of the use.
Okay, we have to go. We're back. We'll continue our conversation. Stay with us.
More conversation, more talk, more right after this.
Wow, Folake, this your new office space looks really nice. So just take a look at this furniture.
Thank you.
Anyway, that's not why I came. Your daughter's wedding was fantastic. Folake, who gave you all this money now? See souvenirs everywhere, courtesy of the bride's mother.
It is not who, it is what.
The AXA endowment policy gives you the benefits of target savings and life insurance in one plan. Call 0700 AXA Mansard or visit axamansard.com to get started. Terms and conditions apply.
Yes?
You're cooking again?
My sister, you know I like to keep my family happy.
So you use Tasty Tom?
Of course.
Tasty is so red and thick.
Tasty Tom tomato mix enriches my meals with an appealing and appetizing red color.
So Tasty Tom is this red and thick?
Yes, oh.
It's also tasty.
Can we have more, please?
I am going to get my own Tasty Tom tomato mix. My family deserves to be happy too.
Yes, sir. With Tasty Tom tomato mix, you can give your family more of meals that make them happy. It's thick, tasty, and enriches your meals with an appealing red color. It's enriched with vitamins and fiber that are good for the body. Tasty Tom for tasty meals.
Guess who's coming back exclusively on Showmax? The Buzz. Coming back to give you all the inside scoop, spicy banter, and bigger secrets from Big Brother's house. Get ready for juicy behind-the-scenes videos that Biggie won't show you, but The Buzz would.
Join Toke Makinwa on BB Nigeria The Buzz, premiering on August 1st with a new episode showing every Thursday, streaming only on Showmax. You can also stream BB Nigeria 24/7 on the Showmax app. Subscribe now. Sign up now at showmax.com.
Lagos, are you ready for lightning fast internet experience? Let's go.
BD communication, great value in the line, so fast and easy. The broadband you demand, affordable and excellent. We stand out from the rest. 24/7 customers. VDT, bringing you the speed you need. VDT, connect with us, it's guaranteed. With VDT, it's a brighter day. Affordable, capable, so fast. Choose VDT, the connection that lasts.
For that buzzing internet in Lagos, choose VDT Broadband. Now, 52 banks also trust VDT for their enterprise internet. Yes, 52 banks. Plus, enjoy VDT LTE internet with data rollover and free night browsing for the SME plan. Now, call 090-629-02983 or visit www.vdtcoms.com to choose your data plan and enjoy 24/7 customer service that keeps you smiling.
Is it okay to make fun of our tooth gap? Let's have a talk. Colgate makes your teeth so strong. Stop cover your mouth. Not to do yanga with your smile. Brush your teeth with Colgate. Zero cavities and fresh breath. If you use a Colgate paste. Not to do yanga with your smile. Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate, #1 oral care brand in the world.
I'm in love, Sonia tomato mix, stand up. Easy to open, easy to squeeze, easy to scoop and easy to store. Dishes come alive with so much taste. Sonia tomato mix, of course. Sonia tomato mix, yes sir. Sonia tomato mix, stand up pouch.
Sonia tomato mix in a new stand-up pouch.
So much in love.
Part of something special, be a part of something great. No more wishing from a distance. Take a chance and shape your fate. Now's the time, let's talk more action, cause tomorrow starts today. Own a part of something special, own a slice of something great. It's about who we are and about what we've done. And if you check the record, you will find our word is bond. It's about changing lives and about making strides. And so, if we do it, you should know we'll do it right. Cause we did it with fashion, with people and food. As we found the connection, leading with innovation. And now is the time to be part of the action. So let's go. Own a part of something special. Be a part of something great. No more wishing from a distance. Take a chance and shape your fate. Now's the time, let's talk more action. Cause tomorrow starts today. Own a part of something special. Own a slice of something great. So you can bank on us. I don't really mean to make a fuss, but you don't really want to miss the bus. You don't really want to be left behind. So let's take a chance. If you like it, we can hold your hand. If you really gotta take a chance, then it's gotta be with someone you trust. Cause we did it with fashion, with people and food, yes, we made a connection. Been leading with innovation. And now it's your chance to be part of the action. So let's go. Own a part of something special. Be a part of something great. great. On a slice of something great. On a slice of something great. So special. So great. On a slice of something. On a slice of something great.
GTCO, proudly African, truly international.
99.3 Nigeria Info, your number one station for talk. Let's talk. This is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Lagos, welcome back. Nigeria, welcome back. If you're listening from around the world, welcome back. It's still the Morning Crossfire Health Thursday right here on 99.3 Nigeria Info. My name is Kofi Bartels. Not alone in the studio with me is Executive Director of Health of Mother Earth Foundation, Health of Mother Earth Foundation. He's an environmental activist, an architect, an author, and a poet. Nnimmo Bassey joins us virtually on the Morning Crossfire. And of course, we're looking at the introduction of GMO crops in Nigeria. That's genetically modified crops in Nigeria. And of course, the debate has been on. I mean, we've heard of genetically modified food abroad and, debates in other parts of the world. But it's with us here in Nigeria. The federal government, of course, some months ago approving the release of 4 varieties of Teller maize into the Nigerian market. This is for, planting, for testing, for farming, and the debate has been on as to whether this should be allowed in the country. Your thoughts are welcome. Because when they talk about GM crops in Nigeria, are we playing with fire? I want you to tell us by calling in or sending your messages of WhatsApp or posts on social media, Facebook, YouTube, and of course X. We're streaming live, by the way, on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. We're also streaming live on YouTube, search for Nigeria Info FM. You can go on X at Nigeria Info FM and comment on our post there. We're very glad to read from you. Are we playing with fire? Because we're delving this morning into the controversy surrounding genetically modified crops and their impact on our health, environment, and food system. And asking you this question, do you think introduction of GM crops in Nigeria is good or is it bad? What do you think about that? Are you aware of the potential health risks associated with consuming GM foods? Do you think the benefits of GM crops outweigh the risks associated or attached to these GM crops and the risk to our environment, to our biodiversity, and should the government prioritize, traditional farming methods? Of course, we give a background to what's been going on, Teller maize and the varieties and all that. The Nigerian government has defended the introduction of GM crops into the country, citing the need to increase food production. We're talking about food security here, what I guess thought of that. They're also citing, the need to address climate change. One would have thought that Nnimmo Bassey will be happy because he's, I think, so. You always advocate for, good practices to fight climate change. This is one of the things that President Bola Tinubu, the likes of the Minister of Health, even Minister of State for Health, Alausa, who's been an evangelist of this, they all feel this is part of what will address climate change in Nigeria, believe it or not. Now, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, Nigeria produced an estimated 12.7 million metric tons of corn in the 2022-2023 marketing year, with an average yield of 2.2 tons per hectare. The adoption of GM maize varieties could increase production capacity to almost 10 tons per hectare. You heard what our guest thought about that is addressed all of that. Nnimmo Bassey, you talked about the implications of using, GM crops in our agriculture. You said that at least the worst that should happen if this crops, a variety of maize, let's call it maize, because cowpeas are already in the market, are introduced into the market for farmers to plant, that we should label both the seed and the product GM maize, GM corn. The last caller said, hey, the farmers are not as educated as they should be. Some of them are not too enlightened. They may not know anything about labeling. What do you say to this, sir?
Well, I think the caller was very correct. And even those who are promoting these GMO varieties are not able to explain what GMOs are to the farmers. They're simply telling the farmers these are improved seeds. So this is a way of deceiving the farmers to cultivate GMOs, thinking that they're just the best varieties that the government has introduced to the market. And I think this is unethical and unacceptable. And also when we talk about GMOs, when we talk about food, we have to understand that food security is not just about putting something in your stomach, in your belly, and say, oh, I've got a square meal, or I've eaten, I'm satisfied. There's much about food. Food, when you look at food, the color of the food is important. Some people go to the market, they want yellow, some color. Some even the natural crops have a lot of variety. When you pick up corn in the past and open up the cob, you find some seeds are black, some are white, some have other colors. They are multicolored. Today, genetically engineered crops or like maize will give you uniformity all the way, and that is extremely dangerous. Now, not just the color, but the fact that the dominant trait is now artificially inserted. If that trait that you inserted in a variety that has, because this will cross-pollinate and damage, will contaminate our natural varieties because of open pollination. Now, if that dominant trait penetrates across the territory, the land, and a problem comes, maybe a disease comes or a new pest arrives, what happens is that there will be complete crop failure. And that would be a big threat for our food security, not just challenging our food sovereignty.
Because we're using just that variety, that across...
That variety, yes. Yeah, even in terms of climate change, as you said earlier, climate change is best fought with biodiversity, diversity, not uniformity. You need to have... Our natural farm, when you go to our small-scale farms, you have maize, you have vegetable, you have okra, you have beans, you have many things planted together. That has a way of strengthening the ecosystem, and also protecting the crop, the varieties you are planting. But when you just go to a farm and then you have only one variety because of the chemicals you are applying on them, then what you are actually cultivating is a green desert. A desert, sometimes you go to a farm, you won't even see a butterfly, you won't even see an insect. That shows that something is wrong. Because the engineering affects both the target pest and the non-target pest. And in the case in the US and other places where GMOs have been on for a while, they've noticed that you design some crops to withstand the herbicide, and then you have the wheat for the weeds, and then suddenly you have super weeds that have evolved to also resist that chemical. So you have to make higher concentrations or more dangerous chemicals to tackle these super weeds. The same thing with the pest. You have also a coming to being of super pests who are able to evolve to defend themselves, because nature works that way. You can't just sit in the laboratory and play the bigger power that will control how nature evolves.
Interesting. So what do you think is the danger of the particular trait where the telomerase has been engineered in the laboratory to have a withstand pests? So a pest comes to have an internal pesticide. So a pest will come and then maybe try to eat the maize and will die. What do you think about that?
Well, with the maize and with the beans, there's already the market. Also, when you eat those genetically engineered crops, whether maize or beans that are designed to kill pests, you are eating a pesticide. That's the simplest way to pronounce it. And anybody who would like to eat a pesticide should raise his or her hand and say, look, I'm a pesticide eater. I don't think any single person wants to eat a pesticide, because the pests, as I said, they also affect non-target pests, unintended pests. And we have living organisms in our gut, and you can't really say how these things interact with those living organisms. There are a lot of unknowns, and this is why GMOs need to have long-term tests. There's been very few long-term tests because those who promote the GMO don't want. Normally, the feeding test on lab animals restricted to 90 days. And when you do a test that is restricted to 90 days, it means you don't want to find out what the long-term test is, or what the long-term impacts are. And scientists who have ventured to do that have either lost their jobs or have been vilified as being anti-science or not being in the interest of progress. And so you find that GMOs are tools for control. They're more than just scientific, they're also political tools for economic control, for food control, and this means food colonialism. We've seen this over and over. There's a current fight between the United States and Mexico over genetically modified corn. The Mexicans said, look, we eat corn like no other country does. They have corn in tortillas, in so many things, and people in the US don't eat the same way. It's the same here in Africa. If you make genetically engineered cassava, when I sit down to eat eba, I hardly add anything except what I find in my soup. And so the impact on us, those who eat differently, is different from what you may have elsewhere. And we need long-term tests over time before we can say this is okay and this is not okay. We don't have those long-term tests.
All right, we'll look at what the National Biodiversity or Biosafety Agency is saying in a bit. We have a call on the line. 99.3, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kofi.
All right, welcome. What's your name and the way you're listening to us in your conversation?
As well, I'm Mrs. Oboli calling from Ikorodu.
Ms. Oboli, good morning to you. Welcome. Please go.
In my opinion, Mr. Kofi, without mincing words, GMO is cantankerous. It is cancerous to the health. And I don't know if the government that is pushing this and the telomeres out, if they are also consuming it the way they are pushing it out to consumers, to the masses. See, do you realize that when we take antibiotics now, they are resistant. You don't see those antibiotics working because of these things we are consuming. And in school, we're taught that if you weigh the merits and the demerits of a particular thing you're pushing now, and you discover that the demerits far outweighs the merits, just backtrack and do the needful. Mr. Kofi, I go to the market every day, as in whenever I go, I discover, looking at me as I buy foodstuffs, GMO screaming all over me, and I'm even scared to access these foodstuffs because I don't want to die. I'm feeding my kids the same thing I'm buying in the market.
All right.
What's the government doing about this?
All right, thank you.
Just put our arms and keep looking like this.
Thank you very
It's
much.
Crazy.
All right,
you can't
thank
take
you.
drugs and it will work. There's no longer effectiveness of all these things, and because we are consuming negativity in our systems.
Thank you very
God
much.
help
I
us all.
appreciate your time. Well, this is what the government is saying Nigerians should plant. Nnimmo Bassey, we will give a chance to respond to what she said in a matter of seconds. Also look at the fact that you have the likes of Pfizer buying off Monsanto. You have a buyer also buying off Monsanto. The likes of Pfizer didn't buy them, but these are companies that produce medicines that we use to heal ourselves from sicknesses. And these companies are also going into herbicide production and then GM food or crop production as well. What's the connection between the medicines they produce and then the herbicides and the GM technologies that they're also coming up with? We'll ask you when we come back from our short commercial break. For those of you listening, please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Yes? You're cooking again?
My sister, you know I like to keep my family happy.
So you use Tasty Tom?
Of course.
This stew is so red and thick.
Tasty Tom tomato mix enriches my meals with an appealing and appetizing red color.
So Tasty Tom is this red and thick?
Yes, oh.
It's also tasty.
Can we have more, please?
I am going to get my own Tasty Tom tomato mix. My family deserves to be happy too.
Yes, sir. With Tasty Tom tomato mix, you can give your family more of meals that make them happy. It's thick, tasty, and enriches your meals with an appealing red color. It's enriched with vitamins and fiber that are good for the body. Tasty Tom for tasty meals.
Okay, welcome back. Nnimmo Bassey, so your thoughts on the connection, the fact that these companies are also producing medicines and also producing herbicides and also producing GMOs?
It's very interesting. I think what makes companies go into such diverse and sometimes opposing contrary investments is just about profit. They're running after where they're making more money. Some of these herbicides that are being used now have been used. They've been very strong herbicides used in the past in warfare. Killing plants, so as to like what happened in Vietnam in the 1960s. And some of those things have been modified to be used elsewhere after the post-war to have other applications. And the caller made a very salient point about antibiotic resistance, because some of the GMOs, they use antibiotics as markers in the engineering process, and where that is used, that could have that kind of effect that she mentioned. And this is very important. And then going to the markets, GM, there are a lot of our recent survey of shops, including in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Benin City, Warri, and some other places, showed that there are a number of imported GMOs on the market, on vegetable oils, biscuits, cake ingredients, even ice cream ingredients, and so on and so forth. And some of them do have labels. If you read the fine print ingredient, which people hardly look at, the best some people look at is the expiration date. Where is this thing expiring? And they don't look at what is in it. You find the bioengineered ingredients or genetically engineered ingredients written, but not in all.
Are these finished food products that are imported and sold in the shop, in the store?
Oh yes, like some varieties of cornflakes, vegetable oils and stuff, and there's some biscuits and those things that children like to eat. Those things just buy and put in their lunch boxes that they go into school.
Wow.
And they have GMOs in them. Yeah, but if you don't read the ingredients, you will not know what you're buying.
I wonder if NAFDAC is aware of this.
I know the issue of NAFDAC is another problem, because recently the DG of NAFDAC actually said on live TV, that GMOs are not safe and that they're still studying them. So that was a very big point. I know there's been a lot of firefighting between the agencies, asking that government should speak one voice. But when you have government that, I'm not surprised that government is speaking for two sides of the mouth. And they will try to reconcile, but they should always have the interest of the population at heart, not what is in the commercial interest of external entities who seek to colonize our food system. So when people go to shops to buy all these important things, they should just spend a moment to read the ingredients and then make up your mind if you want to buy it or not. You make up your mind what you want to consume. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Interesting. So for those of you listening, you've heard it. Some shops are selling GM foods already. These are imported through the ports, brought it from outside as finished food items that you buy. That's why some of us, we just eat what we cook at home. There's a variety of corn in the market now. It's been around for some time. But growing up, I never saw this corn in Nigeria or in any other African country. I only see it on TV when I watch American movies. Reverend, please shift your seat back a bit. Sorry. Shift your chair here. Yeah, so you only see it in the movies, sir. When you watch, you see yellow corn. I don't know if this very, very bright yellow corn is an African kind of corn. My wife bought some, and we boiled it. And I know that corn, the corn that I know, African corn, you have to boil it for a long time. It's stubborn, before it gets soft. This one, within maybe 25, 10 minutes, it's soft. In fact, it's so soft, and it's sugary. So sugary. I don't know whether it's planted here. So I don't doubt what you're saying, that these things may already be with us. But, sir, the Dr. Agnes Asagbra is the Director General of NBMA. That's the National Biosafety Management Agency. She said that the agency supports the current scientific consensus that confirms that GM foods approved for consumption in Nigeria are safe. That's what she's saying. She even held a press conference some time ago in Abuja. And she also explained that GMOs are novel genetic materials obtained through modern biotechnology, which allows for the enhancement of crop traits. I'm not going to go into all of that. But she said this, quote, while consensus exists about long-term effects, the current scientific consensus supported by the NMBA as the agency is that GMO foods approved for consumption in Nigeria are safe. And she says that we are committed to ensuring the safety and responsible regulation of GMOs in Nigeria according to Section 43 of the NBMA Act 2015. And that's what she said. Looking at this regulation, are you confident that they can regulate it effectively in the country?
Well, I don't have confidence in the regulatory mechanisms that we have in Nigeria. the biosafety law itself has a lot of loopholes. For example, it has the promoter like the Nigerian Biotechnology Development Agency, which has a slightly modified name at this moment, sitting on the board that makes decisions about which GMOs to allow into Nigeria or not. We have, when you have conflict of interest on the board that approves a thing, that becomes a big problem.
Sorry, sir. Who is on which board? Just to be clear.
Now, the Biosafety Management Act was set up, the National Biosafety Management Agency.
Okay.
The agency has a board
that
is populated by promoters of GMOs.
Oh, wow.
And so you don't expect them to sit back and deny the promotion or the propagation of the things that they support. And so there's been a call for a review of that law. There is also a need to have strict liability provisions in the law, so that if somebody eats GMO today, and it doesn't drop dead, of course, but if an impact from it comes up in 10 years, in 20 years, those who introduce that variety into the market should be liable for it. So that they should be very sure that what they're bringing is safe before they bring it. It's not a question about consensus. There was a time that those consensus that cigarettes were safe. There was a time there was consensus that certain chemicals, herbicides and pesticides were safe. But over time, it be found that they are not safe. Now people, they put a packet of cigarette that this causes cancer, is going to kill you, but people still smoke it. And they smoke cigarettes, even with the label on it, with very awful drawings and pictures, because it's a choice.
Yeah.
Now, so the same thing, when there's no consensus, there's no global consensus that GMOs are safe. There are a number of countries in the world today that have completely banned GMOs. And there are some that only they don't accept the planting of GMOs in their territories, but they could accept. But in Nigeria, I think we're doing West Africa and Africa a very big disservice, because GMO crops approved in Nigeria will infiltrate across our porous borders. Our borders don't have fences. Even if they have fences, pollination by wind will go across any fence. And so when we approve things here, we're affecting Cameroon, we're affecting Mali, we're affecting not Mali, Chad, Niger, Benin Republic. So, and of course, it could go anywhere.
Just to round off, in 1 minute, what can Nigerians do about this? What can Nigerians do?
Well, I think Nigeria should speak up and say that Nigeria is not ready for GMOs. What we need now is the support of small-scale farmers. We need more extension officers. We used to have them up to 1980s, until the structural adjustment program, the World Bank came in to destroy our agriculture. We need to have those extension officers, get them in numbers to go into the, and then of course we need to demand the government to restore security on our farms. Insecure farms would not produce the food we need, no matter what kind of variety of seeds you are bringing there.
Thank you very much. TJ Inaja says, did you know that planting GMO seeds on our land will not cause the land not to grow normal organic seeds on that land? The hunger we're solving today will manifest heavily in the future. Save our land from chemicals. TJ, thank you very much for your time. I want to thank you, Nnimmo Bassey. It's been great having you, pleasure having you. We'll continue this conversation. We'll wait to see what the National Assembly's will move will yield. They've said the federal government should suspend it pending their own committee's investigation. Let's see what happens there. But we'll have you back as the advocacy continues. Sir, thank you very much. Nnimmo Bassey is an environmental activist and the executive director of Health of Mother Earth Foundation. Thank you, sir.
It's also always a pleasure, and we need to emphasize the precautionary principle, cardinal principle in biosafety management.
Trader, are you ready for the flight? Yeah. Maximize your gains day or night. The platform, HFM is the name. Trading with us is a brand new game. Come on, feel alone, execution slow. Switch to HFM, watch your success grow. Higher leverage, tighter specs and swap free. Got your back in this financial fight. Trade forex, commodities, indices, shares and more. Just come and see. HFM online trading. Withdrawals, deposit done in a dash. Our execution too fast. HFM stands apart from the rest. HFM stands apart from the rest. People.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.